Welcome back. Today we're going to do another caddis fly that offshoot. We did one before this one. It's called the R2Z Caddis, and this one's just slightly more complicated. This is one of our buddies, Rich Artusy, does this fly. These are two of his caddis. We kind of got in an argument which one outfished which one last year. So Johnny was sure this one outfished the other one. I was sure the other one outfished it. But so we decided we'd do both of them because they're both pretty simple to tie. This one's just maybe, a couple extra steps, but it's still a super fishy fly. It's pretty basic, even though it's got a couple extra steps. I've got it here. I'm gonna have a 14, and you can tie this in a 14, 16, 18, whatever you'd like. 2457, just standard scud hook. And then we're gonna have its body is going to be midge diamond braid. This one's the peacock. The original one I did, the first one, the original R2Z has the olive. Can't remember what color that was. Caddis green, I mean. And then this one's a little more olivey, darker, just a little bit. And then it's going to have a counter rib. It's going to have a small olive wire. You could use black. You could. I mean, Jeremy said he thought it looked good copper. I mean, you can do anything you want. But this one I'm going to do in green. And then it's going to have a little tiny tail. I'm going to use this spooled Flashaboo. This is Vivus's Flashaboo. You could use if you got some pearl Flashaboo, it's fine, same thing. All right, and then last but not least is going to be the collar or the head or whatever you want to call it. I think on Rich's original one he used natural gray. I'm going to use the black just because I think it looks better. I don't know. It's so close you can hardly tell the difference anyway. And so, get that out of the way. I already pulled it. So on my thread, I'm going to use some A-Dot Vivus. Like I said in the last video that we did on these caddis, I like to use as small a thread as I can on all my flies. And even on my streamers, I do as light a thread as I can. If you have 6/0 black or dark gray or whatever, that's fine too. I tend to be as light as I can on my thread. So, this one's going to have a little trick to it, and quite frankly, I didn't even know until Jeremy showed me a minute ago that it had a shellback because it blends in so far into this. I knew it had the tail, and I'll show you here. It's got this little mylar tail sticking out. It's supposed to be its silk string. Caddis will hang off a silk string to do biodrift or to do a lot of things, to feed, but it's got that little, you can see it out its hind end there, just hanging back. And by the way, Jeremy says he fishes this more than probably anybody, and he clips it up. So, but originally it was in there. Originally we're going to leave it on, and so it's got that there, and then it's got a counter rib, and that's tied over the top of the back. And I'm sure he's trying to imitate the gaseous bubble of a caddis, and so we're going to tie that in first. Probably first. I put that Flashaboo over there on my phone because I lost so much of it trying to pick that thing up. It's on my table. It's like, where does this go? So just like always, we're going to leave ourselves space for the head. So this one we're going to leave just a little bit extra. On the original one, I left room for about 4 turns of head. This one I'm going to go back just a little bit more than that yet, because as you saw when I put this up here, I've got to have this collar of ostrich. And so I'm trying to leave room for that. So cut this off, and I'm going to go back, and I haven't tied this fly enough to get a real good step on it, like where I would do this, but because I'm going to wrap this twice, I'm going to put this in, I'm going to come in here like this. Don't worry about measuring this out right now, because you can leave it long. You're going to clip it, so I started there, and I'm going to take this other one, I'm going to fold it right over top. But I want to make sure that that's right on top of the hook. I'm going to come around and I'm going to make even wraps down, and that one will hang down, then I'll be able to pull this one back over. And if you looked at Rich's fly that I had there, it had a pretty far turn down to the bottom. And so you're going to take that a little bit further than normal, down around it. Now I'm going to tie in this wire, and I'm going to tie in the flash at the same time, or the body, excuse me, not the flash. So I'm going to tie these in at the same time, just to kind of save a step. Not too worried about, I'm going to get it close up here to where you should tie it in, And then I'm gonna just nice even wraps, and I get a second chance, just like before when I was telling you on the other caddis or anything you do. Even pressure, consistent wrap is the hallmark of a good tire. When you can, you're watching your thread control and everything's even. I'm trying to tie sideways here without blocking the camera. Back up here, give yourself a half hitch. If you're using a rotary, it's just a rotary. If you're not, you're just going to have on this first one here, make sure your wire's on the back side. Make sure you can still see your flash. Here it is back here, it's hiding. I'm going to make one turn around. If you're doing it by hand, make one complete turn, just like that. All the way around, and then hold it especially when you're first starting to tie. And this is a great starter fly. Hold your finger there and give this a stretch. You can see it stretch. Right? One, it's going to do two things. One, it's going to anchor, and two, you're going to make sure that you don't have a gap back here that's gone. That shows the body, but it anchors that first one in. When you stretch it, sets everything. It's just a precursor for the rest of this fly. Now I'm just going to go through, try to keep my hands out of the way. Right to here. Now look and see. Make sure you've got a nice space to get. You're going to want 2 or 3 turns at least of 2 or 3 probably minimum for your ostrich. So we're going to tie this off right here. Got lots of nice. You got a nice space. When in doubt, leave extra, because you can always build it with your ostrich. And, you can fill that gap. But if you've got too little, you're going to have to go back over your body. It just looks bad. So now we're going to find that piece of flashaboo. Before you pull this over, make sure it's the long one. Before you pull that over, make sure that your ribs on the back side where you can get to it. Wow, talk about disappearing act. This is going to go on the top here. And I'm just going to, man, I can hardly see that stuff. Aha. Button up my sleeve. Ooh, life. So right here, what happens to me when I do these shellbacks like this is I get in there and I twist my body over. So I find it easier if I just pull it like this. And I start up the back of it and I get it set with that so I can keep it in the middle, just so it's dead on top of the fly. So I'm going to do this with my hand just so I can see it, and drop that. That wasn't good. Get back here. And so once I get there, once it's anchored in, I can see it's on the top of the fly, because it has a tendency to want to go over the thing for me. I can guarantee you could get away without this on the top of it. So I'm just making sure it's staying on top. When I try to use my rotary, if I pull it forward and tie it off, I always move it over. So on a shellback like this, I just do it the old-fashioned way, come forward, and I can see it's right. You can see it's right on top. Give it a couple turns, break your wire, cut your flash off. Come back here. Get out of there. Now we're going to take your ostrich plume. I'm going to stroke that off to the side so I can see it's nice and laid up. There's nothing getting trapped in here. Give it 2-3 turns. I'm going to pull. I got a little bit forward there. Here's a habit that you should never do. Don't get old so you can't see. There's no future in it. So now I'm going to look at it, I'm just trying to figure out where I want that, and just going to wrap it around, like I said, as many as it takes. I'm just kind of guessing what looks good to me. Okay, I'm right here. That looks good to me. If you're doing this by hand, you're just going to just reach around, capture it, pull it on here like that. If you're not using a rotary, just put your hand on it, stop it from falling off. It's really simple. It's just like putting peacock girl on. Got 2 or 3 turns, broke that, didn't break clean. Little head. And that's all there is to it. This one, like I talked about the other one, nice and fuzzy. Make sure his tail's back there, hanging down. Straight away, you can cut that. Give it a little shot of glue. What do I do with my glue? Be careful with this when you put your glue on ostrich, because it will migrate up the ostrich a little bit. Be better to use a bodkin. I'm just going to kind of go quick here. Be better to use your bodkin if you're on that. But you've got that little collar. It's super simple. This flies fast. I have not fished this one as much, but like I told you before, when Johnny and Jeremy were arguing which one was better, it was a dead split. And so, you know, Jeremy swears by this one. Johnny was on the other one. It's kind of in between for me. I didn't fish this one as much because it did so well with the other one. But it's a pretty quick fly. If that shellback bothers you, just practice. It'll take a little bit of time. It's just how easy it is to hold your material, how hard you hold it. Just nice and easy. If you want to lay a little bit of lacquer, a little bit of UV resin over the back of that, you could. Just carefully it doesn't get into the ostrich, and it'll be fine. It's a good fly. It fishes. I hope you liked it. I hope it helps you out.